Well, hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome to our webinar today, where we're going to talk about behind the scenes, what shapes staffing needs in U.S. hospitals. We look forward to answering any questions you might have, so feel free to put them in the chat. My name is Laura Messino. I'm the Chief Nursing Officer here at Worldwide Health Staff, and I'm going to let Amy introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Amy Carr. I'm the Vice President of Business Development and Account Management here at Worldwide.
All right, next slide. So let's dive right in. So the reality of U.S. hospital hiring, hospital health systems have to take a step back and really look at what are their staffing needs. They have to be very strategic about it. It can't be something that's last minute. They frequently have longer hiring timelines and increased competition. Hospitals are hiring more cautiously right now due to budget pressures and changing priorities. At the same time, they're also seeing a change in their workforce. And hiring decisions are based on workforce planning and patient care needs. They want to make sure that each clinical area is staffed appropriately for the volume of patients that they'll be seeing. Long-term nursing demand in the U.S. remains strong. There are approximately 190,000 U.S. NCLEX passers in 2025. And that's really reflecting a stabilizing U.S. pipeline. Not all licensed nurses work in bedside hospital roles. There's a wide variety of different areas that a registered nurse can work in the United States. Some work for vendor companies. Some may work for pharmaceutical. They may work in a med spa area. So they've got a ton of different choices of where they want to go and practice after they get out of school. The U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics projects approximately 189,100 RN openings annually through 2034. And international nurses truly do play an important role in hospital staffing needs. We are seeing on a day-to-day basis that we have many nurses that are baby boomers that are retiring from the nursing profession. We've got a workforce of very novice nurses coming out of nursing school. And so the need for international nurses that have the immense experience that you all have is highly desirable in the U.S. Hospitals aim to ensure that we have safe staffing levels, and at the forefront is consistent, high quality of care. We want to make sure that the best possible care is delivered to patients and that families are integrated into the care of the patient, and that we communicate with the families to make sure they're up to date on the status of their loved one. Hospitals are truly working on their sustainable long-term workforce planning. Next slide. So your role as an international nurse, you are truly filling critical ongoing staffing needs. We see daily when we look at our clients' websites, all of the openings that they have. And so when we work with our clients, we're talking to them about their long-term staffing plans so that we can continue to hire international nurses to bring to the United States in order to fill their long-term staffing plans. Hospitals begin international recruitment planning months or years in advance. So what they do is they look at what the trends are and their one-year turnover rates. They also look at those that are leaving the workforce, and then they strategically plan where their openings are going to be in each different clinical area. And what you bring to the table is your skill and experience. You have a vast amount of experience. You have many years of experience that are highly desirable. You are going to stabilize the workforce, and you truly are an essential part of the care team, not a backup option. You are integrated into the care team. And what we are seeing out of our international nurses is that they are very, very successful at our hospital systems. Many of them start as a staff nurse, and they are asked to be a charge nurse. Some move into management roles. So it's an amazing opportunity to come and work for one of the clients that we have in the United States. Next slide. So, what shapes staffing decisions from US hospitals? Hospitals consider a multitude of different factors at the same time. Number one, they're looking at patient demand and volume. We know that this changes. Sometimes it can be seasonal, and they know this. As an example, like during the winter months, volumes skyrocket because of flu cases. They also have financial planning and budget meetings. We know that many of the hospital systems are growing and expanding their services. So they perhaps are opening a new hospital or an urgent care or an outpatient surgical center or primary care offices. So they know that when they are in the process of building those and expanding their services, there's going to be a critical need for international nurses to fill the open roles. And usually those project timelines are a couple of years. So that really aligns very well with the EB3 process that exists in the US today. They also shape their staffing decisions based on internal workforce changes and then regulatory and safety requirements. There's different regulatory and safety requirements in each state. Some are more difficult and some are easier in order to make sure that the hospital is complying with the regulatory and safety requirements. But the thing we'd like you to remember is that hospital systems, their staffing decisions are multi-layered and strategic. It involves nursing leadership, it involves chief financial officers, it involves leaders of human resources and talent acquisition. And all of these leaders come together to look at what is their strategic pipeline and how are they going to address the workforce challenges that they have. Next slide. So patient demand is really the biggest driver. At the forefront of every single healthcare system, they are focused on delivering the highest quality of care to their patients. In the United States, we actually have something that's called Leapfrog, where hospitals submit their quality data to Leapfrog, and the goal is to be Leapfrog A. And that basically says that they have the best clinical outcomes, all their clinical measures are at the highest level. And that is something that health systems promote and market across the local geographic environment that they're in order to encourage patients to seek care at their facilities. The number of patients directly affects staffing needs. So at a US hospital, on every shift, they're looking at how many patients, how many nurses are scheduled, do we need to call more nurses in? Do we need to move a nurse to another area for that shift because there's more patients on one unit than another unit? We do know that the demand changes due to seasonal illnesses like flu, also the aging population, and any sort of community growth that's being seen. And hospitals really do have a robust way of how they plan for all of these demands that they're seeing, and they use historical trends and forecasting tools in order to do this. So what does this really mean for you? It means that the demand for nurses continues to grow, and hospitals are preparing in advance for these needs. I've been a nurse for 35 years, and never once in my career have I not seen a nursing shortage in the US. So this will continue for years and years and years to come. Next slide.
Okay, I'd like to just take a second to say hello to everybody who's watching us. I see that there are people in Ghana and Jamaica, Cebu, the UK, KSA, Kenya, Nigeria, and Pennsylvania,
Wow.
closer to where we are. So thanks to everybody for taking a little bit of time to watch us. I think one of the other things that hospitals and health systems look at when they're planning is their budget. Staffing is one of the biggest expenses, not just for nurses, but for all the other positions that it takes to make a hospital or a facility work. Hospitals always have to balance giving really great patient care along with their budget and making sure they are financially sustainable. And so when they look at these hiring decisions, and especially international nurses, it's an investment they're making into each one of you as they decide to hire you. And so really oftentimes they think about, what are the needs that are always going to be there, consistently. We've seen some changes in what there are from a budget standpoint. If you think about COVID and what was available from a budget standpoint during the COVID years, and then it's a little bit different now. Sometimes it changes based on some regulatory things here in the US. The US government has passed some legislation that impacts how some insurance, the state and federal insurance pays out. And there are also some states that make changes and regulations that can impact the budget. So as those things happen, budgets change and leaders have to make changes. And so they're balancing, what's the right number, in this case, of nurses that we can have to do all the things that we need and serve our patients, but also meet our fiscal responsibilities. Next slide. And then, the workforce changes. I think we've seen in the past 10 years some pretty significant workforce swings. I think globally, but absolutely in healthcare. And so, COVID is something that we will all remember and had an extreme impact. But there's also a significant number of nurses in the US that are retiring, and they're making choices sometimes to retire earlier. But they're also taking with them a pretty great chunk of experience. Nurses that have been in the field, like Laura, for 35 years, are making choices sometimes to leave or not stay at the bedside. And then also sometimes there's migration. So I am in North Carolina. Laura is in South Carolina. These are states that experience many people from other states that have colder weather moving to them, so they can have a nicer place to be when it's warm outside almost every day. But some of the places where they're moving from are experiencing a lack of folks to take the jobs that are there. And so that also leaves openings for other people in those areas. So I think also important to know that hospitals, like they track other things, also track these trends. And so any really great hospital system will have numbers and predictions for what is their turnover going to be, who's going to retire, who's going to get promoted, and what spots are going to be open. Next slide. There's also pretty significant hospital growth in the US. There's many companies that are making acquisitions. So what used to be hospital systems that had 3, 4, or 5 locations now have 50 or more. There's lots of expansion happening. Even some of the smaller university systems are doing some pretty significant growth. We have a partner in Iowa where they acquired a new hospital and they're building a new hospital all at the same time. And so they've got to figure out how to have new staff that it will replace, or that will make sure that they can open all of those floors that are available. Also, there's sometimes hospitals where they've got floors that are not used to capacity, and they'd really like to be able to open up beds and open up those areas to use. And oftentimes international nurse planning is a way for those hospital systems to be able to do that. And then, healthcare demand continues to increase. As the population in the US continues to age, there's much more complexity and there's greater needs. And so we see the demand for healthcare in hospitals, but in many other facilities as well, continue to grow. So all of these things create additional opportunities, in addition to, Laura mentioned, the long-standing nursing shortage that exists here in the US. Next slide. I think Laura mentioned this is a highly regulated area. And it's really important to know, and nursing is important anywhere that you are in the world. But I think one thing to think about as you're thinking about how you fit into the US nursing structure is just to make sure that you're taking the opportunity to use all of the tools that we have to help support you for your transition to practice, and make sure that you're spending time getting your skills up to date and remain in bedside and remain committed to your practice. And then as you arrive in the US, be open-minded and learn everything you can about the way that the US differs from the country that you have been practicing in, and ask lots of questions about all the guidelines and the things that are really important to meet safety guidelines here in the US. Laura, is there anything you would add about regulations and structure?
I would just say that each state has its own nursing regulations. So when you get your nursing license from a state, it has many different regulations. I'll give you some examples. Like each state has a different number of continuing education credits that you as a nurse would have to maintain in order to renew a license. Some have different processes for English language for an international nurse. But we help to support you in every step of that journey to make sure that you're able to successfully obtain a license.
Thank you. Next slide. So, we know that this year there have been some concerns about job offers, and it does happen that there are sometimes changes based on the needs of the hospital system, but it is rare. Worldwide, we have experienced some of that this year, and there have been other organizations that too have had this experience. Many of the things that we have talked about today, shifts in patient demand, organizational changes, and sometimes the availability of US RNs and the hiring that has already happened in an organization will contribute to this. These decisions are certainly not taken lightly. And we at Worldwide are your advocates, both through any changes, and even if they're not, our job is to always advocate for you with our client partners. So just know that if there is something that does happen, we are here with you. We've got processes in place to support you. And it is our job to support you from the time that you accept a job offer all the way until you arrive in the US and start working successfully as a nurse with your new employer. Next slide. So some of the ways that Worldwide supports you are, we support you through every step of the way. All through the application, we help you select the employer that's going to be right for you and your skills. We communicate with you and support all of your immigration questions and pathways. We work with our hospital partners. And I think we have regular meetings with our partners, and then also we talk to them about their workforce planning and making sure that the nurses that they have you continually line up with their needs, and make sure that we talk about you often so that they know all of the folks that are coming and that they've really had good planning. And then if something changes, whether there's a need to make a shift in a unit or location because the hospital changes or something else, we are there to support you while that happens. And I think, it's important to know that staffing decisions are planned. There are whole departments of people and hospitals that are devoted to this. We visited a client partner recently, and they have a vice president who is dedicated solely to really reporting on workforce planning. So there's a lot of thought that goes into this. There's a lot of money that's spent behind this. But also, you are a really important part of the healthcare system. No hospital runs without nurses. It just doesn't work. There's not patient safety. There's not good patient care. There's none of that without having nurses and good experienced nurses. This international hiring for any hospital system is a long-term strategy. just like you, hospitals wish that you could be here faster and that, they could say, all right, I'm going to hire you, Gina, and then tomorrow you could start work. But that's just not how the US immigration system works. And so for all hospitals, this is a long-term strategy and a long-term way for them to hire experienced nurses that have worked all around the world and to add to their talent pool, to add to their leadership bench, and to add to their diversity, which makes every organization better. And that's why we here at Worldwide are here supporting you every single step of the way. Next slide.
Thank you, Amy and Laura. If anyone has any questions, go ahead and put them in the chat and we'll address those. I did see one come in already. What if I've taken the NCLEX? Can I apply with my degree certificate?
Yes, you can. And I think we posted in the comments the link to apply. So please make sure to go on and apply. And we would love to connect you to our team of recruiters. And they would be happy to talk with you more about your skills and where you hope to live in the US and about what partners we have that have available interviews right now.
And then the next question, when do we expect MVC to update scheduling? Do you know the answer to this question?
I do. I phoned a friend. The NVC is updating all the time. So the availability is always updating based on the visa availability and the folks, the timing of people that are DQ'd that they're accepting at that time.
Great. And then as we wait for more questions to come in, I'll just go to all of our social media channels. This is just a reminder to follow us on Facebook and Instagram, where we post updates constantly, as well as host our webinars on YouTube. And then I'll put the links in the chat as well. Next question, I just received a date for 2026. So does that mean I probably won't get accepted until 2028?
Yeah, so I think right now, if your priority date is in 2026, we're seeing current processing times around 24 to 30 months. So I think that's probably right. 2028 is most likely today when we would expect for you to arrive in the US. I think as we all know, it changes. And so you should like and follow us on social media because every time the visa bulletin comes out, we will post it there for you.
And any predictions on what we expect in the next visa bulletin?
This has been a really unique year in the visa bulletin. And I think we have seen selections on movement to be different than than we've seen in previous years and maybe not exact trends. If I had to predict, my guess would be that we will see probably only very little movement in the next visa bulletin. However, I think we do hope that we'll in the next month or coming months we'll see some positive movement on those that have been on the travel pause. And so instead of the visa bulletin moving, there will be more visa eligible people from the travel pause. That would be my prediction.
And this person says, I've already taken the NCLEX and worked in the US before. Where do I start?
Please apply. Click on the link and apply. And the best thing is to talk to a recruiter about your experience and your immigration background and the time that you spent in the US. And the recruiter will be able to help you on an individualized basis.
And what is the age limit? Because I'm in my early 50s.
There's no age limit. There's no age limit. I recently, one of our international nurses was in her early 50s that's getting ready to come over in the next month. So please apply if you're interested.
Great. And why does the petition depend on your place of birth instead of your citizenship?
Yeah, that's a USCIS regulation. And so that has just been the way it is and probably is unlikely to change. However, for those both on the travel ban and the travel pause, there are exceptions based on citizenship that, given the country of your citizenship, you may be available to apply for.
Okay. And I have my NCLEX, but no current nursing experience preparing for re-entry program. Would I be considered?
Yeah, I think today most of our client partners really want to see nurses that are currently working in bedside. I think we know that having really great bedside skills is important to success when you transfer to the US and you transfer your practice here. And I think one of the things that many of our client partners are looking for from international nurses is experience and experienced nurses. So today we'd be absolutely happy to talk with you and you're welcome to apply. But I think you would want to get into a unit and practice for several months and in order to be in the best position for a job interview.
And then the next question, what is the current duration for I-140 approvals under regular filing?
Yeah, the average time, I think that's important. It's average time. So it's not a hard number, but the average time on USCIS website, last time I checked, which was last week, is 23 and a half months for approval for regular filing.
And then this person is saying, I have a concern after hiring. Do you have the people you have hired in a group or are they doing the journey individually? So I think this is asking about the support that we provide after hiring.
Yeah, so I think it's both. So every single person goes through the immigration journey, and there are individual things that happen for each person's case. But we have a team of people who support you. You have a case manager advisor that supports you all the way through your process. And we also have a connectors group on Facebook where you can connect if you choose to join with all of the other nurses that are in process. And we know that having community and partnership and support on the journey is really important. And so we also have that. And then maybe Laura, do you want to mention the support after arrival?
Yep. So we do have support after your arrival. Myself and I have a clinical educator are here if you have any challenges from a clinical perspective or you have questions about navigating the healthcare system. In addition to that, we have a very deep partnership with the Philippine Nurses Association. And we, as Worldwide, give you your first year of membership. We pay for that so that you are then part of a local community of international nurses. And they have a ton of different resources. They have picnics, they have activities, they've got educational sessions. They really do embrace any international nurse from anywhere in this world to join them. And so we truly are here every step of the way. Our relocation team too, once you're in the US, is also available to you as you look to go from temporary housing to permanent housing. If you have questions about purchasing a car or opening a bank account or any of those things, we do have a team that's here. And we want to make sure that when any one of our nurses come to the United States, that you can completely assimilate and feel very comfortable, know that your questions are being answered, and be a part of a community.
Great. And then the next question is, what if my priority date is 2008, but I did not push through my dream in the US? What can I do to reactivate my petition?
Yeah, so when you find a new employer, as long as you have your approval notice, that I-797 form, we would be happy to include that in your new petition with your new employer and recapture your priority date and then put you back in the front of the line. So the best thing would be to talk to a recruiter and find the right employer to sponsor you. And then they'll ask you to share your approval notice with them. And then we'll be able to help you file the petition and move on your way.
Great. And then we'll do a couple more questions. I've applied before and decided to reapply. Can the application be considered again?
Absolutely. Yeah, we know this is a big decision and sometimes the timing changes and it wasn't right for you then, or perhaps you didn't have the right employee partner. to sponsor you at that time. So absolutely. And if you still have the information for your recruiter, you can reach out to them directly, or you can absolutely reapply, whatever is best for you.
And then this person is doing part-time bedside. Will they be considered for a position?
Yeah, I think almost all of our employee partners right now really do require full-time bedside for the interview. Maybe Laura, I'll defer to you about why.
Yeah. So, it's, a big reason why healthcare systems are interviewing international nurses is to bring that very deep clinical experience to the table. And they want to make sure that you have been working full time. And then once you would accept a position, they want you to continue working in that clinical area so that you continue to grow professionally and you can bring that expert knowledge to the US for the patients that you'd be caring for at their organization.
And I had my petition approved as a nurse aide, but passed my NCLEX. How will I be helped to transition to RN?
Congratulations. That is exciting. The best thing to do is please tell your case manager, and they will get you in touch with the right folks to help you with an RN offer letter and position and what the next steps are for you.
And I'm preparing to rewrite the NCLEX RN. Can I apply in the meantime, or do I have to wait until I've passed the board exam?
You can't. You're welcome to apply. Please apply. We're happy to have your application while you work on that NCLEX. Well, it'll also make sure that you get updates and all the things for being in our database. And then just let us know when you pass the NCLEX, and we'll help you find a USRN interview.
And then the last question, since I have a Canadian citizenship and a Jamaican birth, all education from elementary in Canada, does this pause affect my progress as well?
It does not. It does not. With Canadian citizenship, you would be eligible for both the TN visa, which I think is really popular, and also the EB3 exception.
Okay, perfect. So those are all the questions that we have. And I just wanted to tell everyone about our Refer a Nurse program. For every nurse that you refer over to us, you get $250. So I dropped that link in the chat as well. And Amy and Laura, any closing thoughts from you?
I just wanted to thank all of you for attending our webinar today, and we would love to help support you on your journey for coming to the United States.
Yeah, and if there are other questions or questions specific to your case, please always reach out to your recruiter or your case manager, and they are happy to help you. If you haven't applied, please apply online. We would love to help you. And thanks again, everybody. It was lovely to see you all today.
Thank you, everyone.